Welcome back to the 2025 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage this year brought to you by HP Tuners. Bryan and I are joined again, and we'll get into that in a second, by the good folks from BF Goodrich. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves. TJ, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Solomon. We're excited to be here. But my name's TJ Dennis. I'm the brand manager for BF Goodrich Ultra High Performance, or UHP tires.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm David Carpenter. I'm a product manager for the BF Goodrich on-road portfolio. Anything asphalt, that's what I'm responsible for.
And I'm Ed Gliss, a returning One Lap participant. I'm just a washed-up test driver for the brand who's in product marketing now. Happy to join.
Lovely. And I can tell you that these guys love talking tires and are very excited. And I know this because we may have done an amazing interview last week, and somebody may have forgotten to press record. I did. So they lovingly and willingly came back to talk tires again, and we're excited to bring you the content that we had spoken about last week. So without further ado, we're going to redo what we already did. So have fun enjoying what we already did that we're doing for you. Anyhow, good afternoon, gentlemen, and I know you guys are at the doing some testing now and getting ready for this year. And this year you're with us to promote a few new tires. But more importantly, there seems to be a shift in the force this year. So the PS4Ss that people have used, and they're sort of the tried and true, aren't really the go-to this year. So why don't you tell us about the tire that you are running and sort of some of the advantages to it and why it might be the new tire for One Lap?
Well, Ed, any of us could speak to it. I can kind of kick it off, but Ed's
you guys can fight it out. Whoever's left standing.
He's going to be He's going to be behind the wheel and experiencing it. But yeah, we're going to be driving on the brand new GeForce Phenom TA tire. So this tire launched really just last month or two. So had the first phase that came out in February, and then the most recent one in the middle of April. But we'll talk a little bit about the tire line, kind of how it's positioned within the market. It's a summer tire, so it's not 200 tread wear. It is a tire really primarily aimed for street going vehicles. So it's not a race tire per se. We have different products for that, the GeForce Rival family. But yeah, really positioned after the tuner. Somebody is into modifying their street vehicle. So folks that go to a casual track day type event might be on a UHP summer product. But like I said, we'll go in the nuts and bolts of this brand new tire, but we're really excited about it. And Ed could talk a little bit more. Ed probably has the longest history of the group here on the call, given the fact he's done the testing on it early on in its development.
Yeah, early on when I knew it just as the BF Goodrich Comp 2 replacement, I was still an active test driver and was basically leading the development process. So then it was really cool. This year I did my best to try and join the spec racing class with other tire manufacturers who previously ran a Civic Type R or an Integra Type S. But to my surprise, the entry list suggests I might be the only one this year. But nonetheless, it's going to be a great opportunity to test its both track and street capabilities and in all weather conditions against what's definitely shaping up to be a very stacked field.
Absolutely. And we'll get into the sort of specifics of the tire in a little bit. But why don't you talk to us a little bit about the effort as a whole this year? Because not only that, but you're partnering up, I know, with Skip Barber at VIR. You're doing a tremendous thing by offering 2 sets of tires for the Brock Yates Memorial Fund auction, which is going to raise some good money, I believe, for the Memorial Fund. So big thank you for that. So why don't you talk with us a little bit more about the day, your partnership with Skip Barber, and what to expect when we're at VIR?
Yeah, I can take that. So Skip Barber, everyone on this that'll be watching this, I assume, knows Skip Barber, the world's largest, most iconic racing school. So they've been really good partners of ours for a while, and we're the official tire of that school. They run the GT school on Mustangs, utilizing the Phenom. They've been doing that really over the last 2 years, well before it was brought to market. So they give it high praise for several of its characteristics, one of them being the progressivity. The instructors really love that. Like I said, we do have other tires that are more geared towards on-track activity, but the progressive nature is great for the layman to understand where the limit is and driving at or near the limit. But yeah, tremendous partners. So at the VIR event, kind of midway or 2/3 of the way through the week, we'll have kind of a special type of event there where you can come through towards the end and check out not only us and the new Phenom tire that we'll have on display, but Skip Barber's main facility is there, right on the edge of VIR. So as you're exiting, stop by and pick up some swag, talk to us, and yeah, tour the amazing facility they have. It's really impressive. I know this is a pretty difficult group to impress, but I would think most people would be impressed by the facility and how well. Well, you'll just have to see. So I won't give away all the details, but.
Absolutely. And more than just a suggestion to stop by for those competitors watching, it is mandatory this year, as it is a sanctioned passage control check because of the good folks donating both not just the couple sets of tires for the Brock Yates Memorial Fund, but Skip Barber donating a day racing school as well. So stop by, thank them, appreciate everything. And even if you're not impressed, fake it. All right, Bryan, go for it.
So guys, when it comes to a new tire in the line of UHP, normally how long does it take from concept to design to development to testing to market?
So I can take that. It kind of depends, right? We know what we're looking for. We know when we kick off a project, we've got target performances we want to improve on the existing tire. We know who our competitors are. We test them and we see where we're lacking possibly, or where we want to even push the envelope further. And so we write our spec sheet, and then we work with our design teams, and then they put together these prototypes, and then Ed and the team test them, and we get the results back. And depending on how far off we are from where we want to be, it could be 1, 2, 3 loops. We're using finite element design, we're using 3D modeling, we're doing all the cool stuff and all the leading edge engineering to make sure that we get right. But there's still, you got to put it on the asphalt and you got to test it on the vehicle to make sure that it's delivering those performances. So and then depending on what new technologies you're introducing, maybe you're introducing new tread compounds, maybe you're introducing new belt materials or anything like that, you've got to get your industry up to speed, and they've got to be able to produce it reliably and industrially, so they can produce hundreds of thousands of tires in this way. So the whole process could take anywhere, 3 to 5 years. Like sometimes it can take longer to do. Such a tire line, can take longer. Some can take longer than others. It's kind of a little bit of a crapshoot, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make sure that we deliver a tire that meets the needs that we've identified, and the consumers have let us know, hey, this is where we need some improvements, and we want to make sure that we get that tire to you guys and to everybody at the end of the day. So if it takes us an extra 6 months to a year to get that right, we're going to work on getting it right.
Awesome. And so why don't we go into a little bit, well, why don't we do this first, actually? I think, obviously, over the past number of years, probably 10 years or so, we haven't seen BFG really make a foray or a lot of noise about being in the performance market for vehicles, for race vehicles, I should say. We've seen a lot in the off-road section, the KO2s previously, obviously the big white letters, iconic, on a lot of the off-road vehicles. So what is sort of prompting the switch, the focus, and what with the rollout of this tire, do you have anything else coming down the pike as well that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I can kick that off, but anybody else jump in. I mean, definitely an opportunity. Again, viewers watching this likely know BFG from both the off-road side, but the on-road side. We had all the right products in the right segments within ultra high performance, and we're starting to fill those gaps again. So Ed mentioned how Comp 2, we've been out of the market with that core product for a while, so starting to fill those voids. Also within the G-Force family, so all of our ultra high performance products fit within that sub-brand name, if you will. The G-Force Rival S has been alive and well in the market for quite a while, but we have a new rival product coming to market called the Rival Plus. So the S is designed for that quick warm-up, more for your autocross, time attack, time trial. Whereas the new Rival Plus, that's literally launching as we speak, will kind of be unveiled over the next few months through June, is really meant to be for that endurance racing, grassroots endurance racing type of individual. So same exact tread design, 2 different compounds essentially. So now we have a full gamut set of offers. You got to have the right product to be relevant in the space, and that's what we've lacked, and we've fixed it. So the G-Force family is comprised of the all-season product, so the G-Force Comp 2 all-season, so tremendous performance in that, as well as the new summer, the Phenom that we've just now launched and are talking about, and what's going to be running at one lap, and then the rival parts of the G-Force lineup, so the S and the Plus. So those 4 offers really kind of cover the gamut of the needs there. So other folks are familiar with the R1. We still do produce the R1 in what was the Spec MX5 size, but TBD on where we head with things, but know that we are prioritizing this side of the business, which is really exciting, especially for the folks here on this call, in us and viewing it, hopefully.
And if I could add, it seems like BFG's kind of become an off-road brand, but it has a long history of being an on-road pavement type product, right? We were the first tire to go coast to coast in the US. We also, we're the first radial in Trans Am and with a street radial, and did very well there with that. We've run at Le Mans. We've been on aerospace, so we've got a rich history of engineering, groundbreaking technologies on road, and again, we're starting to focus a lot more energy there to bring that up to the consumer and live up to our history.
Awesome. All right, Bryan, go ahead before we start getting into the real technical elements here.
All right. So you guys have been down at the Lawrence Proving Grounds playing all day today. And before we got on the call, I was talking to David. When I was a kid, that place was completely taboo. You knew it was there, but nobody knew where it was. Nobody knew anything about it. And nowadays, you guys partner with Tire Rack Street Survival to teach young drivers car control, defensive driving, and all. How did that relationship or partnership, if you guys know, begin with Tire Rack and the Street Survival program?
So I don't know the full roots, but we are blessed with a very large vehicle dynamics pad here at our proving grounds. Ed, do you remember? It's several acres worth of asphalt.
14.
Yeah. And so we've got one of the rare places where we can do so much in that little space. And, as most know, Michelin is our corporate, we're under the Michelin umbrella. And driving safety and a better way forward is really key to the cornerstone of the group. And so having that opportunity to partner with Tire Rack and their Street Survival to promote and educate young drivers has been important to us. So it's an opportunity, and then they've got the ability to spend the whole day out here learning new skills that you can't pick up in a high school parking lot for fear of a drive-by police sighting or anything like that. So, Ed, do you know any more details on how we got started?
No, I think you hit most of it, but like you mentioned, since it's a 14-acre VDA, there's no light poles to slalom or anything like that, so it's really flexible and inviting, and we can have a large group of students, practice car control and learn safety maneuvers in a safe manner.
Very cool. All right. So this is when we're going to get into the technical stuff. And those of you who are easily bored, stick around and maybe you'll learn something. So similar to how, sort of the environment around the Proving Center has changed and it's a little more accessible now, I think there's a much larger discussion around tires lately. And I know last time we did this, we spoke about the, sort of the the Formula One world and how Liberty Media has done a great job of kind of showcasing now through their coverage of, even Formula One tires, how they're good for maybe one lap. So, particularly for qualifying. But it's brought a lot more awareness, I think, and focus onto tires, that they're not just round and black, hopefully, right? So let's get into what it takes, because there's a lot of science, chemistry, geometry that goes into this stuff that I think most people don't really understand what it is to get a tire on a vehicle that's round, actually fully round, balanced, and provide you with a great experience. So why don't we take the Phenom for an example and start dissecting that a little bit? Let's educate people as to what goes into this particular tire. And Ed, I know this is your baby, so yeah, why don't you go for that one?
TG, you might have to back me up with that image. But yeah, just as the first factoid is that inside a tire, including materials and components, there's over 200 variables. So that's a lot of different things that you can put in the recipe, if you will, to go ahead and make the tire design. Obviously rubber compound is huge. The sculpture design is huge, which in the UHP space, so the high performance summer offers, tread block rigidity, which is going to give you the control and the heat capacity, as you can see highlighted in the red. And then conversely on the inner shoulder, which is in the blue area, is the wet focus zone, which is going to have more void for water evacuation. So those are just two things. Another nerdy thing that I'll go ahead and distract all of you with is, if you look closely, you can see that the tread blocks are different sizes, going circumferentially across the tire. And so what that's actually done is it's an arrangement to optimize noise performance. So it's not a repeating pattern necessarily. It's different size tread blocks organized, through simulation for the lowest possible tread pattern noise, which this is on all of our products, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So welcome to being a tire nerd.
But that is something that's really neat. I mean, these are like little secrets that most people really have no idea about, but how big of an impact that has. So what else sort of across the tire can you point out, or in tire manufacturing, particularly for BFG and Michelin, do you guys do? I mean, that is something that's really neat.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do is as you said, as Ed said, sorry, there's 200 plus materials that go into the tire, and then they're built into several different shapes, different rubbers. There may be a rubber in the sidewall that's stiffer than the rubber in the tread package, that's different than the rubber in the bead, that's different than the rubber on the inside. They all have completely different shapes and completely different points at which they're put onto the tire. And then everything's got to be laid very precisely so that as you roll the tire and once it's molded and cured, that you get that perfectly round tire, or a tire that has the sound and the performance that you're looking for, right? Not necessarily the sound, but the performance. And you've got, there's fabrics in here, your nylon plies, your steel belts, and they've got overlapping joints. I think everybody's seen a very bad joint where your tire's got the Grand Canyon in the sidewall, right? That's not a very good joint. You're probably going to feel that when you go to balance the tire and get it looking for that smooth ride. So we've really got to align that, work to make that repeatable tire after tire after tire, so that you can get this performance at the end of the day.
So let me ask you this. When we talk about a tire being progressive in its nature, so when you're going through a corner and you're feeling where the grip is, and what really helps make a tire feel more progressive as opposed to one which is very much, it's at the limit and then it's over the limit. So how do you construct a tire to talk back to you, so to speak?
And do you want to take that?
I mostly know what it feels like, but of course it all boils down to the footprint shape and overall the inflated profile. So I guess if you can envision it, but if you had a very square edge tire, it's less forgiving than something that's a bit more rounder and truly progressive in nature. But David, as a former tire designer, go ahead and expand.
Yeah, and then even the tread design here also gives some feedback there, right? You've got thick, wide blocks on the outside that don't move as much. So when they get in, when you lean them over and you get in the corner, they're not moving around on you. And then it also comes down to the tread rubber as well. It's got a good grip, it's got the right modulus there so that as it heats up, it becomes the right stiffness, but also has enough compliance that it rolls over and starts to still maintain grip, but also starts to speak to you, right? That we all love that tire that is very happy and that is making good music, but what you don't want is that tire that then snaps over and screams like a banshee at the same, the next instant, right? You want that good communication back and forth. Yeah. And then we get into deep tire design, but I don't think anyone wants to listen to that.
I mean, we've talked about lots of other things
Yeah.
on these things, but no, that
Yeah.
is really, really unique, I think. And if you are interested in learning more, find Ed or David on the One Lap this year and pick their brains, buy them a juice box, and they'll be happy to tell you more about it. Bryan, go for it.
So with horsepower and performance increasing over the past few years, and it just keeps going up and up and up, what are we going to see in the future in the realm of performance tires? Are the tires going to be able to keep up with the cars?
Because they're not getting lighter either, are they? The vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern, but we're not sitting still either, right? We're constantly innovating. We're constantly searching for the new materials. What can we add to the rubber? How can we modify the rubber to get us provide the grip? What new materials can we add to increase the carcass strength of the tire while maybe not adding a lot more mass, right? I mean, we could just, if we were in the old days and bias ply, we wanted to be a heavier vehicle, we just throw another ply in there and go on down the road, right? So we're trying to find other ways, high strength steel, high strength cords to support that. And so just making sure that we've got the tools in the toolbox to meet those needs as the vehicle park progresses that way. Is our key and really our function of our research teams around the world.
It is a very interesting juxtaposition, isn't it? Because the tires are getting lighter and more efficient as the vehicles are getting heavier and more powerful. So it's there's sort of this delta that keeps widening, I think, it seems.
Yep. The mantra of a tire engineer is compromises, compromises, compromises. So there's always something there that you are having to compromise on, and we work to try to limit those compromises and the impacts there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance of performances, and it gets particularly interesting in original equipment development too. So, I mean, in that case, the car manufacturer can pass all or most of the responsibility to hit certain performance targets is down to the tire. So sometimes you've got some contributing demands that really have a lot to juggle.
So talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of individuals don't understand. And while it's been written about numerous times, my former co-driver and performance side, Billy Johnson's written articles about how even the PSC2s, right? Not every PSC2 is the same. So let's talk for a moment about the OEM game here and how there are different designations and how they mean different things for each manufacturer.
Yeah, well, I guess since we're representing BF Goodrich today, we'll talk about it from a BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2 standpoint. So referencing the Ford Raptor fitment. If any of you are fortunate to have such a vehicle or have a friend that has one, or next one you see in the parking lot, by and large, you'll see an FP marking on the sidewall. And what that means is Ford Performance. So that denotes the tire that we developed in partnership with Ford specifically for that vehicle. So the KO2 is a Baja champion in its own right, and we started with that recipe as kind of the building block, and then in partnership with Ford continued to make adjustments and tweaks so that it perfectly matched the characteristics and the performance goals for that vehicle. So rubber compounds, sculpture designs, tread depths, inflated profile. There could be mass targets. There could be rolling resistance targets, wet grip, dry grip, winter traction. So all of that is kind of on the table, and It's kind of like when you go to purchase a new car and you get to check which boxes you want. That's what Ford would do for us when we're developing a tire for them.
Yeah. And additionally, I'd like to add that, the Raptor is kind of a worldwide product. And so the tire has to be able to meet regulations worldwide. And that, Europe might have different requirements for noise than we do here in the US. So we have to tune for that as well. And lots of times that comes down to us. The OE will share those responsibilities for noise and grip and rolling resistance with us, or all of it's on us, right? And we have to make sure that we can deliver for them.
Moral of the story being, if you have one of these very special vehicles that has a very specific OE tire, don't go to Bob's Bargain Tires and just get the same, kind of tire. Pay attention to what it is that you're picking up, because otherwise, you might wind up with something that isn't really suited for the vehicle and wondering why it's performing not as good as it probably was before. So reach out to the tire rack and make sure you're getting the right one. That's why the education comes in, really top notch, to educate yourself on the tires, but more specifically about your specific tires. All right, Brian, what else you got as we start wrapping things up here?
All right, David, you just brought up a really kind of interesting tidbit there. You're talking about for different markets actually going in and tuning a tire for different areas of the world.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what you do to tune a tire?
So a lot of times what we'll do, we won't necessarily tune for a specific market. We really try to aim for a worldwide product. It's just, that way you guarantee you get the same performance where all the consumers are getting the same performance. But again, if we know, for instance, that Europe has the most stringent rolling resistance, we will look at how can we reduce the mass of the tire? How can we change, possibly tread depth? Can we change the tread rubber, and put in a slightly more rolling resistance friendly rubber? These are all different tuning levers that we have. And then as you start to stack on the regulations for wear or for wet grip or for rolling resistance, then you have to say, okay, well, we have this excellent rolling resistance tread rubber, but now it's not really great in the wet. So how do we improve the wet? Can we mix something in with this rubber, make a new rubber compound that actually gets us what we want, or can we get it with some modifications to the sculpture of the tire? And you might see some of that if you look at different placement market tires, like for instance the KO2, and you look at a specific Ford Performance KO2 right next to each other, you might see some differences there, and they might be visible and they might be deep baked down in the tire, and you don't know. But what you can say is that these OE marked tires, the Ford Performance and some of the others, they are what the OE, what Ford wanted that vehicle to be, how they wanted it to perform at the end of the day, right? So that's meeting their targets, and they're pretty challenging and demanding customers.
Absolutely. So the moral of the story is you still can't tune a fish, but you can tune a guitar and you can tune a tire. All right. So as we start to wrap this up here, this year you're back the one lap. Last year, obviously, you guys were out representing Michelin. This year, BFG in whole. What's your goal this year?
Yeah, Ed, what's your goal?
I think one of the big weights on my shoulders is my co-driver, who's Ross Bentley. So I'm hoping to make him proud, but maybe pick up a couple more speed secrets on the transits. But no, I'm really excited to represent BF Goodrich. We've got a great product. Tire rack, the One Lap of America is going to be an awesome chance to kind of expose how well and how versatile it is. So I think, that's it. It's a heck of a field this year. So as long as I finish, that's step one, and make Ross proud.
That's lovely. That's lovely, but a terrible answer. I want to know where. I mean, in your class, you have a really good chance, as you mentioned. It's smaller than it was, previously. But overall, give us a number.
25th or better.
Okay.
I think I counted 6 Porsche Turbo S's, so everyone's trying to do a rinse and repeat of last year. They
It's
got twice as much horsepower and all-wheel drive.
Did we mention the car? Did we talk about the car? I'm
not
confusing
really,
the
not,
call
and I'm
we already
assuming it's
had with
not the
this call.
Supra
and
back
what
there. Yeah.
No.
the Honda Civic Type R is what we're piloting. So, or Ed and Ross. So, and I think we think we'll do pretty well, all things respected. I'm regurgitating what Ed has said, but the main standout performance of the Phenom, it's amazing in the dry, but it's even more exceptional in the wet. So the more wet weather, the better. So Ed, you can expand on that, but either way, I think we'll do well, but especially well if that's the case.
Well, I think you're in luck because at last check, tire rack in the morning of the wet skid pad is supposed to be cold, and obviously it will be wet, being the wet skid pad. So
That's a
off the
start.
start, yep. So from the start, you may have a pretty good advantage there. So let me ask you a quick question. So a few years ago, we had tried a tire out, and there was quite a lot of mold release agent in it, and it didn't work so well on the wet skid pad. What do you do to get the tire ready for this event?
In this case, I'm just going to drive up from South Carolina and put the first 700 easy road miles on it.
There you go.
Break it in gently.
There you go. So for those that might not understand what we're talking about there, just expound on that really quick, because as people are getting their tires from Tire Rack, sometimes they're literally bolting them on the day before and then going out and trying to do the wet skid pad. So not to try and give yourself more competition, but from an education standpoint, what is it that they need to be doing to really help bring tires in and to just be aware of that, shiny and black and round might not necessarily be the best thing.
They could check the box for the heat cycling from Tire Rack. But otherwise, yeah, there is something to be said for the first heat cycle of a tire to be kind of gradual and gentle, and then to allow it to properly back, because the oils and the waxes inside the tire and that additional cure just help make it homogeneous and kind of be more predictable and last longer from a performance standpoint. So for me, that's my drive up from South Carolina to South Bend.
Nice. Well, thank you for that little tidbit there. We appreciate it. Gentlemen, we're very much looking forward to seeing you. We're only a couple of days away, as Bryan said, 3 more sleeps, or for me with the newborn, 3 more attempts at sleep. And then we'll be at the Tire Rack getting ready to kick this show off. Thank you very much for indulging us and doing this for a second time because of my foible earlier. And I promise it is recording now, so when I hit stop, it will actually say stop. But yeah, we were very much looking forward to it, and thank you very much for your support of the Brock Yates Memorial Fund. So for the 2025 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage this year brought to you by HP Tuners, I'm Solomon, that's Bryan, and this is Team BF Goodrich. Thank you so much, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I can't shut it off. Fuck the internet.